Andrei Kirilenko is one of the most unique players from his era of the early 2000s. Most people remember him for specifically his shot blocking ability and his defense as a whole, but there is really a whole lot more to him on both sides of the floor. While there are many big men from this era whose talents would not transition well to modern basketball, Andrei Kirilenko is the exact opposite, where you'd think he'd be even better in today's era. So we're going to look back at the prime years of his career and talk about just how amazing he was in continuation of our Forgotten Prime series. So without further ado, here is Forgotten Prime's Andrei Kirilenko. Alright, I gotta say, I'm super duper excited for this video because Andrei Kirilenko is, no joke, my third favorite player of all time, which I realize that's very weird, but there's just something about Andrei's game that to me just, Andrei Kirilenko is amazing to me, basically, in short. So gonna hand the mic off to Alex to talk about Andrei, like, subscribe, all that shit to both of us, and yeah, here it is.
So what was Kirilenko's prime? It's kind of tough to pinpoint exactly which years specifically were his prime and how long it actually was, because he fluctuated throughout his career due to roster changes and a lot of unfortunate injuries. For the sake of this video and simplicity, we're going to use the 3-year stretch from 2003 to 2006. Over the span, he would average 15.8 points, 7.6 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 1.7 steals, and 3 blocks per game on 56.6% true shooting, making him 3.9 percentage points above league average in efficiency.
Despite never winning Defensive Player of the Year, which was more indicative of the era and lacking of appreciation of his ability rather than a lack of actual capability as a Defensive Player of the Year tier guy, he was without question still one of the league's top defenders and certainly probably the most versatile one. A lot of players in today's era get thrown into this idea of being able to guard 1 through 5, but as rare as that was back then, Andrei Kirilenko is one of the few who truly could do that.
Andrei Kirilenko was uniquely equipped to be the amazing defender that he was because he possessed a height of 6'9", yet he had a 7'4" wingspan. This allowed him to remain quick on his feet while still being able to defend players taller than him. There were 7-footers that didn't have the wingspan that he possessed. While he was shockingly quick on his feet for his size, what really helped him make him the defender that he was his defensive positioning and overall instincts. He knew how to place himself between the ball and his defender to maximize the amount of space he was going to be able to occupy at any given time. He was so smart at knowing when he could provide help and trap somebody while still allowing himself enough time to recover back to his man. Here he comes off of guarding the point of attack and instead he goes to double the man in the post. Once the ball leaves the post, you can see him immediately turn his head towards the weak side wing, looking for the extra pass. Once he recognizes that's where the ball is going to go, he sprints to close out and he gets a good contest on the shot. He was an exceptional screen navigator and he did a fantastic job of forcing guys into tough situations coming off of pick and rolls. Here he runs into a screen, but he shades Ginobili into the baseline coverage where he's forced to put up a contested pull-up mid-range. Here he's on the weak side, but when the Jazz go to help in the post, leaving him on 2 wing players, he effectively covers both of them, shading his man into a tough drive into the heavily guarded paint before making a perfect rotation to the corner to contest the kickout and subsequent three-pointer. His help defense was incredible, knowing when to rotate from the weak side to come and provide help. He could turn post-up isolations into double teams and ultimately blocked shots with ease due to his quick decision-making and wingspan, allowing him to block post jumpers and interior shots off of lengthy weak side rotations. And when it comes to guarding ball handlers, ones that were good in isolation against bigs, he was surprisingly good. In this matchup against Kobe, he blocked multiple shots and he rarely let Kobe get by him, and even when he did, his wingspan always allowed him to recover and get good contests and blocks pretty frequently.
Now let's shift over from the defensive side of the floor, where most people are aware of Andrei's reputation, and talk about the fact that the guy was also pretty damn skilled on offense, which is more so slept on. Especially he was skilled as an initiator in the half-court set at the top of the key as a passing big man. There is such an obsession these days with big men who have versatility on the offensive end of the floor, and versatility just period, and Andrei Kirilenko fits that to a T. While he had the finishing ability on the interior that any other traditional big man would, on the offensive end, he was also a very capable playmaker and one who was frankly underutilized with his time just being behind on what he was capable of doing.
Kirilenko wasn't a point forward by any means, but think more along the lines of a Jokic type of passer or Karl Anthony Towns, where he was facilitating offense out of the post or from the top of the key, despite being traditionally thought of as a big. He had such otherworldly floor vision, on par with what you'd expect from guards, but he was doing all of it as a 6'9" power forward in an era that was so post dominant. This split action that they would run was so far ahead of its time, as we see offenses of today run it as a staple of their offense. Kirilenko has the ball in the high post, and there's a cut to the wing and a cut to the basket off of the screens. Kirilenko was so adept at finding the cutter in stride and putting the ball in a spot to where his teammates could have an easy time finishing at the rim. Look at the way the floor is set up right now. Kirilenko has the ball in the wing, and where do you think that he's going to pass it to? What looks like the right pass in this situation based on how the floor is spaced out? If you expected a pass to a cutter over 4 separate defenders directly next to the basket, good job. But this pass does a great job of illustrating how Kirilenko was able to see the floor and find cutters in untraditional places through defensive coverages that otherwise may make those passes look really, really difficult. The Jazz were big fans of floppy actions to get shooters open in the mid-range, and it was due in part to Kirilenko being able to find them. They would position Kirilenko up top and have a shooter get staggered screens along the baseline, and he would always be able to feed them for easy, clean looks. This play shows his quick thinking because the Lakers seem to be preparing to stop the floppy action, but instead he's going to feed the peel off of the pin down on the cut to the basket for 2 easy points. While he was an interior focused presence, that didn't prevent him from leveraging his rim pressure. Driving and kicking is an integral part of modern NBA offenses, but it's something that Kirilenko was able to do at a really high level before power forwards were really even expected to do that.
But perhaps the most exciting aspect of Kirilenko's offensive abilities on the floor is something that you don't even really need to be a huge basketball fan to appreciate, and that was his transition playmaking. Kirilenko's athleticism and skill allowed him to turn defensive rebounds into transition offense very, very quickly. It made him a lethal player to try and stop in the open court.
There's this philosophy in basketball around good defense bleeding into your offense. Defensive event creation is one of the best ways to ignite your transition offense because it forces the opposing team into having to scramble to try and recover, and the team previously on defense gains an immediate momentum shift towards the other end of the court. Kirilenko was so good at capitalizing on numbers advantages and making the right reads to his teammates in the right spots to generate easy transition opportunities. The Jazz were one of the best transition teams in the NBA during the 2003 to 2004 season, holding an offensive rating of 123 points per 100 possessions in transition. He capitalized really well on his gravity heading towards the rim, forcing defenses into 3-on-2 situations to focus on stopping him in the paint, and it allowed for a lot of easy kickouts to the perimeter or finding cutters near the dunker spot. Kirilenko may have not been putting up massive scoring numbers on a nightly basis, but he was one of those Swiss Army knife players that could genuinely do a little bit of everything at a high level. Injuries and underutilization derailed the trajectory of his career, but his skill set was the archetype for players like Draymond Green. He was an incredibly switchable defender, and he could be the funnel for your offense to run through to try and open things up. Jerry Sloan, early in Kirilenko's career, crafted a beautiful system that was able to showcase what he was truly capable of. While his prime may have been quite short compared to some of the other guys we've covered in this series, don't underestimate just how good Kirilenko was when he was at his best.
If you guys ended up enjoying this video, then I'm going to need you to do me a huge favor and drop a like to make sure that the series continues. The last episode that we did on Amari Stoudemire didn't do so hot, and if that streak continues, then we have to stop this. So if you want to make sure it continues, drop a like. Also, go check out Alex's channel. I really can't stress this enough. I know it seems like this obvious just promotional shit, I don't know, I'm doing this just for the sake of getting him to do content for me. For real. Alex Hoops is so good at NBA YouTube, and he's going to be better than me. I think he's already better than me, but I think he's going to be ahead of me in a few years, just so long as he keeps up the pace that he's currently on. And he's doing it full time now. So plenty of content to be had over there, plenty of great content. You need to go check it out. But with that out of the way, that is it. Goodbye.